Uh,
Hey everybody, welcome to Goots' Wrestling Pod. I'm your host, Ray Goots. If this looks weird, it's because we're doing it on this tablet. How you doing, Andrew Lee, bro?
I'm doing great, man. It's a little hot. I think it's in the 80s. How about you?
Yeah, it's hot. So I'm looking for a place to put this while I do this. It's hot, and I'm the Goots. So I'm gonna have to get a fucking thing for this later on, but this is how it's got to be. So we're talking Spring Stampede 94.
Four. Yeah.
One of the greatest pay-per-views of all time. I was watching this. I gotta put this down. I was watching this, and it does kind of feel like Tony Khan saw this show, and he's like, "I want every AEW show to be like this."
You think so?
It feels very much like an AEW show.
Um, there. I guess there are parts of it that is kind of like that. Absolutely. It's man. I can't say it's a bad show. And you know what? Here's the thing about AEW. Say what you want about how bad their weekly shows are. Their pay-per-views are usually bangers.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people say this is the most WCW show ever. And a lot of people feel like this was like the peak of WCW, that Hogan came and ruined it. Um, it
Mm.
definitely feels, it doesn't feel like a company getting ready to bring in Hulk Hogan. It feels very much like a Tony Khan booked AEW. And I know they mentioned Hulk Hogan here and there. I like the show. I'm not shitting on the show. But I do kind of feel like Tony Khan saw this show and he's like, what if we could just keep WCW in that little era for 5 years? And that's how he books AEW. That I don't know. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but that's kind of how I feel about this show.
I don't know if I feel that way. I don't. If people are saying this was the peak WCW, I actually would say that's. I disagree. I still think Super Brawl 3 was better than this show. Um,
I think the peak is coming in '96. I think people just, no matter how good WCW gets with Hogan in charge, I think people are still, well, I don't know about nowadays, but older fans were still bitter that Hogan showed up and
I think
actually.
you know why? Because Hogan is, for better or for worse, he is the true like WWF talent,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
when you have someone like Big Boss Man showing up. To be fair to him, he did first get his first appearance in WCW, and yeah, the boss gimmick is WWF, but guess what? He's not like the focus of the show, right?
Yeah.
And I think when Hogan comes in, Hogan's like true blue WWF, and he's never been in WCW before, and he becomes the focal point. So I can totally, and let's be honest, his wrestling style is different than WCW's wrestling style. So I can see why true hardcore WCW fans would hate that. I totally get it. Like I
Yeah.
don't hate them for that. I totally get why they do it.
No,
Tony
just like right now, if Hogan was in his 30s or 40s right now, and they said Tony Khan might sign him, it would be like, okay, but what is he gonna like? Is he gonna drop the big boot on fucking Swerve? Like, what? It would just be so odd to have Hulk Hogan in AEW at this point.
It
But
would be
yeah,
like the
let's get
equivalent
into
of
the show
like
because
it would be
because
the
this is
equivalent.
a new recording thing, so I want to make sure it works. So I don't want to do like a 4 hour episode and then it didn't come through. So let's do it.
Oh, okay. But I was gonna say it would be the equivalent of if they signed Roman Reigns. You know?
I think. Well, no. Roman Reigns could adapt. If Roman Reigns is instructed to have like a 20-minute back and forth match with Evil Uno, he could do it.
No, but
It's just gonna be
and
stupid.
Hogan adapted too. But what I'm saying is, if they were to sign Roman Reigns now, people AEW fans would be like, I don't know, he's gonna wrestle that WWE style. We're gonna see his blood. Like they're gonna be all up in the fence without giving him a chance. Is what I'm saying. You know?
I think, but yeah, but I think Roman like that. I mean, not to the benefit. It would actually damage Roman. But I think if they sign Roman tomorrow and they're like, we need to go back and forth with Evil Uno, because they're gonna book him like that.
Yeah, and
He
he
could
and
do
he would do it. He would rise to the occasion. You know?
it. It would be horrible. No one would. If people, the ratings would keep going down the toilet. But
Who
can you
knows?
imagine he pins Evil Uno with the spear and Evil Uno kicks out at like 2.9?
I don't even know if Evil Uno still wrestles. I haven't seen him in
They would
forever.
have him wrestle Roman.
Yeah, but Let's go into Spring Stampede '94. Locked horns, bullish tempers. Let the stampede begin. A real cowboy themed show takes place April 17th in 1994. 12,200 fans are in attendance at the Chicago Rosemount. 115,000 pay-per-view buys for this pay-per-view. In
By the way, it's
comparison,
a very hot crowd.
yes, it's a lot of people. And in comparison to the pay-per-view buys, WrestleMania 10, the pay-per-view that happened right before, 420,000 buys. Super Brawl, which was the pay-per-view before this one, is 110,000 buys, and Slam Burrito pay-per-view after this would be 105,000 buys. So 115,000 buys is like right in the middle. So it's doing all right. It's not like it's down or low. It's just like it's like the average pay-per-view buys that WCW is doing at this moment. The graphics begin running down all the big matches of the card, and Mean Gene Okerlund welcomes Aaron Neville. The last time we saw Aaron Neville was when?
Shit, it was a pay-per-view. SummerSlam '93. He jumped ship.
Yes, very good. yeah. He jumped ship. He turned heel. Went to WCW. That's right.
He got pissed at that finish. He was like, "You made me celebrate with Lex Luger like a fucking idiot." The guy didn't even win.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Last seen SummerSlam '93, but he's here in WCW to sing the anthem. He turned heel, traitor like Ethan Page, Tony Schiavone, and Bobby Heenan.
Traitor like Ethan Page.
Yeah, just like Ethan Page. Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan, they're on commentary, and they talk about Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat. This is gonna be like, you guys know this feud. We're looking forward to this as fans chant Weasel for Bobby Heenan. Let's go right into our first match, shall we? Johnny B. Bad, who looks just like Little Richard, versus Diamond Dallas Page, who comes out with a diamond doll, who is, in this time, Kimberly Page.
His wife is finally on the show.
Yes. They should bring the other diamond doll back. She was gorgeous, the other one.
That was probably his road rat, and Kimberly found out, said, "I'm the new diamond doll."
Probably, yeah. I don't doubt that. This was one of the first times I heard Tony Schiavone refer to him as DDP. He says DDP, and Bobby the Brain Heenan goes, "What? Who?" And he goes, "Diamond Dallas Page, DDP." So it was interesting listening to that for the first time. Before the match begins, Kimberly Page gives Bobby Heenan a pendant with his initials that are gold-plated to him, and they mention this in commentary. "Oh, I got a gift. Did you get a gift, Tony?" Just kind of fun. Johnny B. Bad hits a head scissors takedown, and when DDP is outside, Johnny B. Bad does a plancha over the top. Pretty cool spot. And B. Bad goes up on top and hits a sunset flick cover off the top rope for the win. Perfectly executed, in my opinion. Not a bad opener. This wasn't a bad opening match. It was hot.
This was a pretty good opening match. Especially when you consider participants. DDP is still like new-ish, and Johnny B. Bad.
He's fat.
Johnny B. Bad. He I think like something snapped in him in '93, where suddenly he's like, "I'm gonna fucking try," because he wasn't this good of a worker when we saw his matches in '92, '93, and suddenly he's like really doing some crazy moves.
Maybe he's just improved a lot in 1 year.
Well, yeah, I'm saying, I think he realized like I've got to really try so that my wife can leave me for Brock Lesnar. You know.
I'm glad we agree that the opening match was good. We go to the back. Mean Gene is with Jesse Ventura, and they're both now interviewers. Jesse Ventura.
What a demotion for Jesse to body.
Yeah, it was weird. He's in a suit now. He's just an interviewer. It was just very weird. It's demotion.
Well, suddenly, when Bischoff started talking to Hogan, suddenly Bischoff didn't like him anymore.
Yeah, actually, I wonder why. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they're on the interviewer stage, and they plug the hotline, and Jesse Ventura makes a reference that you better call. You want to call. You want to speak to Gordon Soley before he's gone, making a reference that Gordon Soley is going to die soon.
And he does die within like 7 years. So
Oh yeah.
he dies in
Hey,
2000.
you know what? He was right. You should call him before he kicked.
Yeah, I didn't call. I never got to talk to him.
Yeah. Jesse Ventura and Gene, by the way, they say they have a steak dinner bet going on who's going to win. Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat, just like us, buddy.
I wonder if Jesse got his steak.
Um, Probably not, but I know in a little bit he's gonna get the can. So
Ew.
yeah, we're gonna go to match number 2. It's for the television title. It's Brian Pillman or Flying Brian versus Steven Regal with Sir William. Steven Regal is the television champion, and right away Brian attacks and Regal as he's coming on the ramp, and Regal has to beg off, and he gets slapped for his troubles for begging off. They go outside the ring, and Regal wants to ram Brian Pillman's head into the post, but Brian doesn't want to go there. So there's this like awkward exchange where they can't figure out, you can't decide what to do next. So ultimately, Brian slams Regal's arm on the rails. Do you see that part where they're just kind of like in the outside and they're just not like on the same page?
Yeah, Brian Pillman, I think William Regal is very like methodical, and Brian Pillman was kind of like just winging it. And I think sometimes they had a little bit of styles clash like that. But it also added to the fever because it felt more like a fight than a technical match.
Yeah, it felt like Regal wanted to ram Pillman into the post, and Pillman was like, "I'm not doing it." And then Regal tried to transition to like, "All right, then how about the apron?" And Pillman's like, "No, I'm not doing that either. I'm just gonna I'm gonna take it to the rail." And that's what it looked like. It was very weird, but anyway, this match progresses. Bobby Heenan during this match somehow stepped on his headset, so you just hear a lot of equipment adjusting, and you don't hear Heenan on commentary for a long while, and Tony has to go, "You still with us?" And he's like, "I stepped on my headset." Just very, it was very interesting.
You know what? Even when you have a pro like Bobby Heenan, who never had that problem in WWF, WCW is just going to WCW.
Yeah, like it's just WCW. That's like it's like what they do.
What they do.
Yeah, Brian Pillman, he runs the ropes, and Regal catches him and dumps him over for a really badass spot. Regal does a great grapevine takedown into an STF. And also does like a modified crossbow on Pillman, which is a great series of moves. After that, we see a series of submission moves on Flying Brian, just wearing him down. And it's wearing him down to the point where Pillman can only get a little bit of offense, but it's not consistent. At the 1 minute mark, Pillman finally drop kicks Regal, and he starts his comeback. But they both go to the floor at the 15-second mark, and they both get back in the ring right when the time limit expires. So it is a 15-minute time limit draw. What did you think about match number 2?
It was good. It's the same finish. I do kind of feel like now they're doing these finishes on purpose, is when they want like the pop when someone beats William Regal to go crazy. Constantly, I did like the fact though that Brian Pillman basically was like, he said to Jeeves, "I'm not going to let you fucking cost me this match," and he smacked him hard, but then he still like lost the match. I don't know. Why doesn't Nick Bachman or someone just come out and be like, "We're going to give you guys 5 more minutes"? Because William Regal is just up to, Steven Regal's up to some real bullshit here.
I'm getting sick and tired of these Steven Regal time limit draw matches.
Yeah, but I think they want you to get sick and tired of them.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's just like, this is like another good match that ended with some bullshit. I just was like, oh.
But I think like that's the. I'm sorry. I have to believe in the promos. William Regal is alluding that he's doing this on purpose because he, like I'm just gonna keep letting the clock run out so he won't lose the belt.
I can see that happening. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Mean Gene is with the promoter, Colonel Parker, and his newest acquisition, Bunkhouse Buck, who Mean Gene refers to as the fertilizer salesman because he smells, right? Mm-hmm. And Parker gets mad and he says, "You know what's going to happen tonight? Austin is going to take on that Bray Muta and he's going to beat him. And then Buck over here, he's going to take out Dustin." And then Buck gets on the mic and he's saying, "I'm going to beat Dustin's brains out in the bunkhouse match, and that's basically what we're gonna get later tonight. Do you know who Mance Warner is?
Yeah.
He's like Bunkhouse Buck.
Yeah, but he's more talented. I hate Bunkhouse Bunk.
Yeah, I think Mance Warner is probably more talented, but he has that like he's wearing long johns and I'm a redneck. I'm gonna do like hardcore wrestling style thing. Right?
But Bunkhouse Bunk is the definition of stench of failure.
By the way, I'm not a fan of Mance Warner. I don't think
I mean,
don't.
I'm not a fan of Mance Warner either, but I think he's better than Bunkhouse Bunk.
Fair point. Fair point. Match number 3. Speaking of fighting hardcore style, we got the Chicago Street Fight. Falls count anywhere. We got the tag champions, the Nasty Boys. Tag title is not on the line, I believe. Versus Maxx Payne and Cactus Jack. This is probably like this should have won like feud of the year or something. This is some crazy shit these guys do.
This match was awesome. It was very well done. And I'll tell you one of my favorite things. But the other thing I loved about this match is how into it Tony and Bobby were. They just start becoming.
I think Bobby Heenan was surprised by the brutality. Right?
It's a brutal match, but
it is.
Man, well, get into it, and then I'll tell you what I loved about it. It's brutal, but it has a point to it.
Yeah, feel free to chime in whenever you want. All right. By the way, Cactus Jack comes out to a Super Dad shirt. I don't know what that was, but it was weird.
Super Dad?
Yeah, it said Super Dad on his shirt,
and I was like,
I guess all right, okay. Was he a father already at this point?
Yeah. What's her name? I mean, I think she was a baby. What's her name?
No, Colette. Nolette.
Colette, and she's 14 in 2007.
Noelle.
So yeah, Noelle was 14 in 2007.
Oh, so I guess she was born already. Okay. Yeah, I was surprised. I guess I just thought this was older than it was, but never mind. All right, the fight, they're going to begin right away, right on the ramp. And Maxx Payne, remember, the last pay-per-view, Maxx Payne and Brian Knobbs, they got problems. And he, like, crippled almost Brian Knobbs. So it starts off with Payne with Sags teeing off and Brian Knobbs with Cactus Jack. Cactus hits Knobbs with his clothesline as Sags hits Payne with a chair to the outside. Fight is mostly on the outside. They're barely getting the ring. And we got chair shots. We got stick shots. They got the stick, and they got stick shots on everybody. Finally, Cactus Jack and Sags is in the ring, and Sags clotheslines Cactus over the top rope with the stick instead of his arm. That looked like it hurt. Knobbs and Maxx Payne, they fight to this fake merch stand table that they set up by the ringside area, by the ramp area on the floor. And Knobbs starts beating Max with a trash can as we get kind of like a double screen so you can see what's happening in both sides of the action. And Max slams Knobbs through a table and then chokes him with a shirt. That was one of the first like slams through a table I've seen in these pay-per-views. We get that all the time now, but this was like the first time, one of the first.
Revolutionary.
Yeah. Back on the ramp, Cactus suplexes. So Sags is like laying on the ramp, and Cactus Jack gets a table, but it's not one of those press tables that people use now. It's like a hard table, right? Skinnier. And he basically suplexes the table and it lands on Sags. That was a really cool spot. And then when Cactus tries to go for a cover, Knobbs just runs in with a fucking shovel and just fucking hits him on the head with a shovel. That was hard. Then Sags gets Cactus in a pile driver position on top of that hard table, but the table starts trembling and then it just gives and they both just come crashing through. That was a cool spot as well.
That was cool.
Then Sags just decides to shove Cactus Jack off the ramp. He just shoves him. And Cactus he hits the concrete so hard, it just looked nasty, right?
Dude, crazy.
How high is that ramp from the floor, you think?
I mean, it's not. It's a significant amount to hurt if you fall on your head.
You think it's
nothing
like
crazy? It's livable, but you probably have a concussion.
It's like 2.5 feet, right?
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's still a lot.
Right? Yeah.
if I fall 1 foot, like if I just jumped and then I just fell on my ass, it would hurt like fucking hell, right?
Yeah, this guy just he just puts his whole body into it. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
brutal like fall between the ramp. But then the next thing they did was even crazier.
Oh yeah. So Cactus, remember he fell. He just got shoved off this ramp. He's just laying on the concrete. Sags comes and he brings the shovel. Um, what do you call it? As Cactus is just laying on the concrete, Sags he has the shovel which fucking knobs through, and he just like stands over Cactus Jack and then holds the shovel over his head and just like brings it down really hard right across Cactus Jack's face, like like he's trying to kill him, right? And
Yeah.
then he covers him for the win, and that's how the match ends. And as the match is over, Sags gets back on the ramp and he picks up half the broken table. He runs across the ramp and then just slams the broken table on Max Payne's head for good measure. The ending is brutal. It looks like he's trying to kill him. Like I would have like it's like it's very brutal.
You know what? You know what? This is how bad wrestling is nowadays. I thought he was gonna kick out. I thought like the match was gonna go another 20 minutes. And the fact that he didn't kick out made it so much better.
Yes,
AEW and GCW could learn from this.
yes,
Because I guarantee you right now, if these four guys were like in their 20s and 30s right now and they're wrestling and fucking all in, Cactus be like, no, I'm gonna kick out after that. And then like we'll like the because they lit Jungle Boy on fire and then he still won the match last week at Double or Nothing. And I think that is just so fucking stupid. It is what it is. You're not going to gain viewers, but you're conditioning people to expect nothing to hurt these guys. Like he got lit on fire. He should be gone for a month. Tony Khan got the finisher, and he's on NFL Network the next day. And it's just like this was so like two brutal moves, and it's over. And that's the way it should be. You get dropped on your head, and you get a shovel smashed into your skull. You lost the match. You're not going to get up and do 27 more moves. But the fact that I expected him to do 27 more moves just tells you how the synthesis, how they've ruined hardcore wrestling, the modern companies.
it's because they're not selling anymore. That people don't
Yeah,
sell. This is what we're talking about with selling. They're just not selling anymore. And I like this. You know why it is also because everybody nowadays need to get their shit in,
yeah,
right? And it's like no, nobody hit their finisher. Max Payne didn't hit his fucking painkiller, or Cactus Jack didn't hit his double arm DDT. It was like, hey, what's something we've never seen really in wrestling? Oh, just like a straight shovel
yeah.
shot to the face like that. And you know what? That's how we'll end the match, right? And I agree. If you light someone on fire, that should be like the ending. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Because
the
you don't,
ending.
yeah, you don't see that in wrestling
I
as
mean, I
much.
mean, okay, if you want, maybe while he's rolling around on fire, like I guess you could have Okada hit the Rainmaker on someone and pin them. But that
Yes,
guy should not be. That guy should not come back into the match.
yes, yes. I agree. I agree.
Um, but yeah, it's like, and that's see, they should. You know what? They should do something like this at All Out. Like they should book an Anarchy at the Arena match, and you think it's gonna go fucking 30 minutes, and within 5 minutes it's over. Like John Moxley gets hit with like, let's say Moxley's in the match, he gets hit with three devastating things, and he's just done, and the match ends. And like, because you can even see Max Payne is like, that's it, like, but it adds so much, and then the audience now, oh, just because this show's 3 hours, that does it. These matches could still end at any time, so I have to pay attention. And it just does so much when you do a finish like this, and they don't do it anymore. And I almost feel like they'll never do. Like I feel like you could put a gun to Tony Khan and Triple H's head, and they're not gonna have a match end this fast like that. But I thought this was the best match of the night.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This was very good. I'm glad we both on the same page about that.
Yeah,
So after this match, Jesse Ventura, he is with Johnny B. Bad, who won his match, and he says, "Hey, you know what? I want the winner of the U.S. title match later tonight." So that's gonna allude to a match we're gonna see in the future. We're gonna go to match number 4. This is the match that Johnny B. Bad was just talking about for the U.S. title. We got the returning Great Muta from Japan versus the champion Steve Austin, stunning Steve Austin, with his manager Colonel Parker. We get a Muta chant during the feeling out process. As fans still remember how great this guy is. Aaron Neville decides to sit right next to Bobby Heenan, ringside during this match.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
He is, huh? Right?
Yeah. So I remember Tony. He asked the production team, "Can I just sit next to Bobby?" And they were like, "Okay," because he wanted like the best seat, and he's just invested in the action
Yeah, because he's gonna sit there for the
for the rest
rest
of the.
of the show.
Yeah, and he doesn't interact. You know, yeah, he just wants the best seat.
Yeah, yeah, he does. He doesn't want to. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right. He wants the best seat. He doesn't talk to Bobby Heenan. Nothing. He just wants to fucking sit there and watch.
He's a real fan.
Yeah, he's a real fan. Like, he's a legit pro wrestling fan. This is crazy,
He
right?
saw he saw Muda come out and he was like, "Oh, his inner Meltzer came." He was like, "I gotta see this match."
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, he saw Great Mood and he was like, "Oh, hold on, play. I gotta fucking sit
Hold
ringside
on,
for this.
player.
I gotta sit ringside for this shit." Yeah, I really like that fact that he's such a wrestling fan.
Yeah,
You know,
I like
he's
it
very
too.
wrestling fan. I like that.
I like it. Like, you know, that's why, like, I think the worst thing to happen to Jungle Boy was Luke Perry dying, because Luke Perry was like a serious fan. Like, Luke Perry wasn't a fake fan.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah. You're right. I saw
Yeah,
an
and
interview.
like I was listening to an interview with Jack Perry. Jack Perry was like, he would sit there and like tell me why Dusty Rose is important. And it wasn't just like, oh, this guy's like my favorite wrestler. Because you know, you have to understand what I need you to understand if you're gonna get into this, why Dusty Rose is important. And like that's I wish he was still alive because I feel like Luke Perry would be so pissed about the CM Punk thing. Like, how the fuck did you like chase this guy out of the company, man? You gotta
Yeah,
beat WWE.
yeah,
What?
yeah. Luke Perry was like a super fan. You know who's also I think like a really big wrestling fan who's like in movies, a huge movie star is like Matthew McConaughey, right?
Yeah, he used to go to the world class shows, and there's someone else who's like super big. They don't talk about it, but he's like really big. Well, we'll keep going. Maybe I'll
Yeah, we'll
remember
keep
him. But
going.
let's
So
talk
yeah,
about the Great
anyway,
Muta.
Aaron Neville's gonna be sitting there, but he won't be bothering anybody. Colonel Parker, he does try to trip up Great Muta, and as he runs the ropes, and this distracts Muta enough to get knocked out and to the floor. And while he's on the floor, Colonel Parker does choke Muta, and this allows Austin to start the beatdown process with a very long abdominal stretch. Muta does start a comeback, however, but misses a missile drop kick, and then Austin tries his Hollywood and Vine submission move, but he can't lock it in. I had to look up this move. This move sucks. I'm so glad he stopped doing this. If you
Yeah,
ever have time, go YouTube. Stunning Steve Austin, Hollywood and Vine. It's an ugly looking finishing submission move. It's so ugly. Muda though hits Austin's other finishing move, which is really good. The stun gun on Austin himself, and that gets a pop from the audience. Muda then hits a Hurkamania, and he's about to finish Austin off when Parker gets on the apron, and Muda, who's annoyed by Parker at this point, picks him off the apron. And as he's doing this, Austin gets up and he charges at Muda. And as Muda sees him, he just back body drops Austin over the top row, which is a DQ in WCW. So Austin wins by DQ. After this match, Muda, who's pissed off, slingshot planchas over the top rope onto Austin and Parker to cheers from the audience, but he will not get the belt. What did you think about this match?
the ring work was really good. You know, it's so funny because Jim Ross would always be like, "Oh, people didn't think Muta could get over." Muta would always got over. I don't understand this whole thing. The thing with WCW is they'd be like, the excuse with Japanese wrestler is like, "Well, that's too summer company." If there's any company where a Japanese guy is going to get over based on his like wrestling magazine, because there's really no internet yet,
Yeah.
reputation, it's WCW. And I I was in a great mood as a little kid in '89, just seeing him in magazines. He's got a great look. I think they should have invested more in Muta. I think they should have made Muta one of their top guys. Muta should have been like Sting's Venom throughout the years.
Yeah.
Like he should have been like if Sting's Spider-Man, Muta's Venom.
The only problem is Muda is so popular, right? He's gonna get cheered a bit, right?
No, I know, but you could make him a good guy. Like you build to it. Like maybe like in 1991 or '92, Muta saves Sting, and now they're a team. And then like maybe Muta changes his look when Sting changes his look. Like you kind of make them like a thing. But hey, listen, Muta had a great career in Japan. I'm sure he's not complaining.
Yeah, and you know what? He has a good showing here too. So I thought this was another very fun match to watch. So far,
Yeah,
I'm liking this
the
pay-per-view,
finish kind
right?
of stunk, but it's fine.
Yeah. Jesse Ventura, he is with Dustin Rose, and he talking about the bunkhouse and how, and they recap how Bunkhouse Buck beat him up with a trophy. And what do you call it? Jesse, he talks over, after this, he starts talking over Michael. He keeps talking, so Michael Buffer has to wait for him to finish. But
Ugh.
then, like, it's a weird transition thing, but they finally introduces the next match, and we're going to go into match number 5, the International World title. This is that fake WCW World Championship thing. It is Sting versus the champion Rick Rude. And before the match begins, Harley Race comes down. He interrupts Rude's speech and he says, I'm out here on behalf of Vader. And he says, Vader wants the winner. And then as he's trying to leave, he tries to take a cheap shot on Sting, but Sting punches Harley Race and sends him to the outside. But then Rick Rude tries to cheap shot Sting, but he also pays the price. Nobody can cheap shot Sting. Nick Bockwinkel, who is the commissioner of WCW, he sits by Tony Schiavone. So now this commentary table that's ringside is getting filled up. And as Sting controls most of the opening up match, Rude finally crotches Sting on the top rope and clotheslines him to the floor to finally start getting an advantage. And Tony Schiavone does question, shouldn't that be a DQ? It's like, yeah, it technically should be a DQ, you know?
Yeah, but why ruin the match? Let it flow.
Yeah. Fair point. As Rude starts beating on Sting, he does some butt flexes for the crowd, and then he goes back to the back-mounted chin lock that he always does. I like the butt flex he did. That was very funny.
You know what? I have been a big Rude guy during this WCW run. He has really great chemistry with Sting, man. They were really good in the ring together.
Yes, you're right. We've been talking about how bad or not high quality Rude's been having in WCW the matches, but 100% this match with Sting was pretty good. It was a lot of fun. Rude has Sting in a sleeper, and Rude tries to. You know what? He has Sting in a sleeper, and he's winning, but then he just breaks the hold for some reason, right? And Tony
Yeah.
Schiavone does question this. He goes, "Wow, what was that?" And you know what? It was a mistake because then Sting starts hulking up, right? And then he moons Rude. He pulls his pants down, he moons Rude, and then Sting starts mounting his comeback. But he's got some sloppy offense that really could have hurt Rick Rude's. And actually, Rude will get hurt later on this match. So what happens is Rude kind of accidentally squashes the referee in a corner, and then Stinger splashes Rude so that basically he's sandwiched between Sting and the ref. And I think when this happened, Rude kind of bumped the head with the referee, so he's got like a busted nose and he'd be bleeding. Sting has Rude in a death lock, but the referee is down because of the sandwich, right? And then
Yeah.
Harley Race runs down and Sting attacks him, but then Vader runs down and Sting has to fight off both of them. But Rude, while Sting's doing this, Rude chop blocks Sting's knee. And then Bockwinkel is at ringside watching this as a commissioner, basically doing nothing, right?
But he's great. He's great at doing nothing, Buckwinkle.
Yeah. Rude is finally so later. So what happens now is Rude is just like waiting for Harley to get to the next spot. So he's just slowly waiting to apply his finishing move on Sting. Finally, Harley Race gets into the ring with a chair, and Rude has Sting in the Rude Awakening position with Sting facing Harley Race. And as Harley Race brings up the chair to fucking slam it on Sting's head, Sting ducks, and Harley brains Rick Rude with the chair instead of Sting for Sting to win the U.S. title. Rick Rude has to say he sells a chair shot and he leaves slowly as Sting has a lot of Rick Rude's blood on him. What did you think about match number 5?
It was great. The crowd popped for Sting winning. I think, I know this is a fake belt, but I think people just really wanted Sting to have a title again and to look like he was the man. And people want to cheer Sting, man. Like, they've been downplaying Sting for a long time. I mean, he's been like in tag matches and he's been in war game. He hasn't been really the feature character of the show. And finally, to have him featured again, I think people were dying. And the fact that he outwits Vader is great too. And I thought they had really good chemistry. You know, shortly after this, Sting and Rick have a match. Rick Rude gets injured and he never recovers. And he blames Sting and he held a grudge against Sting, Rick Rude. But I haven't seen the match. I don't think it was ever taped. But I don't think it was Sting. I can't imagine it was really Sting's fault. But I wish.
Actually, that match does exist, and it is on tape. It would happen in
Oh,
Japan.
oh, it does
In
exist.
Yeah, so in Japan, they have those like the way they set it up, they have the ring, but it's kind of elevated off the floor,
Okay.
right? So the mat outside is elevated a bit off the floor. So there's like a hard angle, right? And Rude was on the outside and Sting does a running dive onto Rude. So he lands on Rude, so Rude falls back and he lands on the edge.
Okay, so it is Sting's fault. Sting.
What?
It is Sting's fault then.
Yeah, it is Sting's fault. I don't know why Sting did that, but I think maybe he wasn't thinking that that momentum would take him that far out. Because
I don't think
basically
Sting did it on
did
purpose.
like a scorpion almost, you know? It was, nasty.
But in this match, really good chemistry between these two. It's good to see Sting have a big win. And it's all gonna be for naught though, because Hogan, they unify the belt, him and Ric Flair, and then Hogan takes it anyway. So it's all for nothing. But we're building to the Hulkster. So
Yeah, and I'm sorry, not the U.S. title, just for the international world title. Let's go into match number 6. This is the bunkhouse match. We got Bunkhouse Buck coming out with Colonel Parker versus Dustin Rhodes, who just runs down the ramp. He just runs down the ramp and he flies over to the top rope and he just attacks Buck. Really cool way to start the match. I love that. I love Dustin Rhodes. He's so good.
He's so good.
I think Dustin Rhodes, from doing his rewatches, he's like worked his way up to my like top 10.
Oh, dude, he's one of those guys that they never should have overlooked.
Yeah, and he's still having good matches to this day because he had that match with CM Punk in AEW that I thought was really good too.
Yeah, and I heard his match with Swerve at the pay-per-view was good too. So
yeah, so I Dustin Rhodes, he's really coming to my top 10. Tony Schiavone references Dustin's promo about the differences that he talked about with Texas and Tennessee, and Keenan goes, "Yeah, there's more letters in Tennessee." I thought was really funny. Good Bobby Heenan joke. Dustin misses a flying forearm, and he rolls outside the ring for Parker to start choking him, and then Buck breaks a stick over Dustin really hard and hits him on the head with the stick, and Dustin is busted open. Dustin then takes a hard clothesline bump onto the ramp, and he gets choked on some more. Dustin, however, has some powder, and he throws it into Buck's eyes, and Buck fires back with some hard belt shots. Like he rips off his belt and just like snaps it all over him. Dustin fired back with some bionic elbows, and then he takes a bucket, and basically he busts open Buck himself, right? So both are just bleeding. Dustin takes off his boot, and he goes to the top, and he comes off the top with a boot shot, and then he rips off Buck's shirt, and he gives Buck a couple of bareback belt shots as well, kind of like,
they give him some other bareback shots. I was like,
yeah, these are some hard belt shots. They were not pulling it; they were like whipping it. Right. He also clotheslines Buck out of the ring. Dustin then hits a bulldog, but Colonel Parker causes a distraction, but he gets whipped for his troubles. But while this is happening, Colonel Parker had given Buck some brass knuckles, and then Buck hits Dustin with the brass knuckles for the win. I really like this match. I didn't like the finish. What did you think?
I liked the match. I was way better than I thought it was going to be. When I saw Bunkhouse Bunk was on this show, I was like, but Dustin brings it. The great thing about this show is you have a little bit of hardcore action. You get some really good technical wrestling. You get a little bit of everything. Some tag team, but the tag teams aren't overdone like the old shows. And this was like after that Sting match, this was like a fun, like everything was different. It wasn't like 14 hardcore matches. Like every match, like the style was different. It was the pace of the show was really smart.
I agree.
To keep, yeah. So I really enjoyed this match, especially for Buckhouse Punk, because I think that guy has no talent and he's a failure. But he did a good job in this match.
He did do a good job in this match. He did. He played his role very well. This Venture's in the back, and he's with a very angry Rick Rude, who's got a very busted nose, and he starts arguing and saying it was Vader who cost him the belt. And then he starts fighting with Vader, and all the heels in their locker room have to try to break it up, and they hold Rude back. So they're building up a little feud between Rick Rude and Vader,
which I don't think goes anywhere because Rick Rude gets injured. So
yeah,
maybe they're going to have Rude turn face.
That would have been awesome.
Maybe I could see this. Rude turn. This is what I think was going to. I bet you anything. Rude turns face. He becomes Hogan's friend, and then he turns on Hogan, and then you build a Hogan versus Rude.
That would have been so much fun. I would have loved that. I think it would have been a lot of fun. Unfortunately, yeah, he gets injured. That's too bad. Speaking of Vader, they recap the issues between the Boss and Vader at the last pay-per-view, with Boss breaking the cuffs and coming into the steel cage and attacking Vader. So we're gonna go to our 7th match, the grudge match, the Boss versus Vader, who comes out with Harley Race, and they start fighting right on the ramp. And Harley tries to get involved early, but then he eats a Vader splash for his troubles on the ramp. That was a hard bump, Harley Race.
Yeah, Harley's taking a lot of bumps this show.
This is on the ramp. Vader, he took a fucking splash on the ramp. Vader, he does run the ramps, and he does this thing where he runs the ramp and he dives over the top rope for a splash, but he meets the Boss's knees instead, which is another cool spot. They go back outside the ring, and Boss swings Vader into the rails, and he goes over the rail into the fans, and Boss picks him up and slams him down the rails. They do a slugfest where they're both punching each other, and then Vader dumps Boss over the top rope to the floor, and then Harley Race gives him some boots. Vader is busted over the right eye, and he's bleeding very badly. Boss does a second turnbuckle DDT on Vader that could have been really, really devastating. Could have been real bad. And he does like a sloppy top rope move afterwards. At this point, I'm starting to see like the Boss is being very reckless with Vader. Like he's doing moves like he's not being careful at all, you know?
But you know what I do? I feel like he's doing that on purpose because Vader gets reckless with other people. So I kind of feel like Boss Man is like, see how you like it.
I agree with you because we've been watching Boss Man matches from WWF, and Boss Man is nothing but professional in all those matches, right?
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden with this guy, he's just super careless. Like he doesn't give a fuck.
I bet you these guys have been having matches on the house show circuit, and I bet you anything Vader's been hitting him hard, and Boss probably like, I've got to hit him back.
Yes, I think that's what happened. And here's the thing about Boss. Boss is one of the few people who's like maybe a little bit bigger than Vader, you know?
You know, the more I watch of this shit, the more I understand why Shawn Michaels had a temper tantrum at SummerSlam 96.
Yes. It was still very unprofessional of HBK to do that. However, sometimes you lose your temper. I know we've all been there.
So like I know the Click guys watch WCW, like they would he would go to the back to, so he would order these pay-per-views, Shawn Michaels, right? They would all watch. So I'm sure he's watching these matches and he's probably like, this motherfucker's not going to do this shit to me.
Yeah.
If we get into the ring ever, I'm not going to let him do this stuff. So he's probably watching this being like, I'm not taking, because you know, if Shawn kept his mouth shut, especially like, let's say they met like in the early 90s when he was still a rocker, Vader just would have punched him and Marty Jannetty into fucking oblivion.
You know? My God, yeah. I like Vader, and his matches are fun to watch, but I would never fucking want to wrestle this guy. I would never want to wrestle.
I get why some WWF guys were like, we're going to, watching it, I get why they went out of their way to bury it. I get it. I don't like it, and I think it was dumb, but I get it.
Yes. Once again, very fair point. Vader hits a Vader bomb that only gets a 2 count, so he decides to go for the very tippy top rope and hits a moonsault to get the victory. Afterwards, Harley Race gets the Boss Man's nightsticks and try to cuff Boss, but the Boss fights back, and then he attacks both Harley and Vader with the nightstick, and he just keeps beating on Harley Race with the nightstick, which finally Bockwinkel wakes up and he just says, "Oh shit, what's going on?" And he gets involved, And
He's
then
like,
he
"Is
makes
this the
Boss
AWA?
Man leave. What?
Is this the AWA?"
Yeah, yeah. It's like he finally woke up and he saw some DQ and he's like, I gotta do something. And he makes the boss leave for beating on Harley Race too much. Vader then decides to go to the commentators and starts yelling at them, "Who's the man?" And both Bobby and Tony's like, "Yo, you're the man, you're the man," which I thought was really funny. What do you think about this match?
I liked it. I was very surprised how much I liked it. You know, a lot of Boss Man's work in WCW, I kind of like dismissed because he stops trying after a while. You know, especially when you get to 96, 97, he becomes like a loser.
Yeah,
And I was surprised how much I liked this match. I was surprised how good Boss Man was with Vader in the ring. So I liked it a lot.
yeah, not a bad match. Not a bad match. I was really surprised about the clean finish with Boss Man because he's still relatively new to this company.
Vader has the match with Sting at the next pay per view. So
Yeah, I see. So Mean Gene, but it's kind of weird because Boss Man's new and he's like involved in the main event and everything, and like the previous thing, and now he's just like loses clean. It's just kind of weird.
but also the other reason why I think they have this match and the angle with Nick Bockwinkel, they had to get rid of the gimmick. WWE was going to sue them.
Yeah, but you didn't have to have him. You could still do that without having him lose clean. But right.
I maybe in their minds they thought like he has to like give up the boss thing because he's failed and like he has to come back from above, like he has to from below, he has to like fight his way back to the top. I don't know, but I kind of feel like they wanted Vader strong for Sting and they wanted to completely change his gimmick and they wanted a storyline where he loses, because if you're winning, why would you change things? Like like right now it's be like Cody Rhodes is like, this American Nightmare thing is not working for me, I'm gonna be Stardust. What are you talking about? You're the champ. Now, if
Yeah.
you get squashed by like Brock Lesnar, then you could be like, I'm changing my gimmick, you know?
No, yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
All right, so after this match, Gene tells us Sting he is going to be live on that hotline. So I gotta plug this.
I got a call right now. It's cool.
Yeah. And then he throws it to the commentary team, and the commentary is like, "Hey, something's up." And we go to the back, and Jesse Ventura, he's with Nick Bockwinkel and the boss. And Bockwinkel says, you can't do that, man. You're a cop. You're representing the best. You can't be beating like up old white men. Not white men. You don't do that." So he goes, as punishment, I'm taking away your stick. I'm taking away your cuffs. And you can no longer call yourself the boss. In real time, WCW is getting threatened by WWF. They're going to sue him. They're going to sue WCW for basically stealing their own gimmick of the Big Boss Man. So that's why he would have to change his gimmick. I think it's a fair way to. It's a decent way in the storyline.
Yeah, just the gimmicks they went with were fucking atrocious. I mean, literally, like,
yeah.
Where do you see this Guardian Angels bullshit? But we'll get into that.
I saw that when I was a kid, and I
remember. Because I put on an episode where Hogan because my friend goes, Hogan's in WCW, and I saw him walk out as the Guardian Angel, and I'm like, oh god, dude, just make him the Mountie at that point. I don't know, make him something, make him have him join the army. I don't know, do something. Anything would have been better. Yeah, the army, like he joins the army.
I guess SWAT team member.
I don't know, but it was fucking no. I don't think he could be anything associated with a cop.
Oh, I did not like this Guardian Angel gimmick too.
No.
I was watching as a kid.
You know what? Just make him like he goes to prison and make him the new Nails. I don't know. Make him team up with Nails, and they sexually assault Tony Schiavone. Anyway,
I wonder if the actual Guardian Angels were happy with this or not.
They were. Curtis Lewa comes on TV and gives it to him.
Really?
That guy Curtis Lewa will do anything for fucking publicity. If they told him tomorrow they're gonna make Cody Rhodes a Guardian Angel on SmackDown, he would literally start driving tonight. He'll do anything for it. He's a fucking publicity whore, that guy.
All right, back in the ring, they miscue Ricky Steamboat's music, and we hear in the background Jesse Ventura thanking people. WCW, don't ever change, guys. Ricky Steamboat finally does appear. He appears between two dragon statues. He's got his torch back as well. And we see a cool "Hey Beavis, the dragon is cool" fan sign as Tony Schiavone talks about Ricky Steamboat, he's kind of living in the shadow of all this Hulk Hogan talk. So we do get a Hulk Hogan mention here.
Well, they
No
also
Hulk
say that
Hogan.
Flair invited Hulk Hogan to sit in the front row and watch the match.
Yeah. What?
You didn't see where Tony Schiavone mentions to Bobby, Ric Flair has invited Hulk Hogan to sit front row and watch the match?
No, I did not hear him say that. No, I missed that
He
part.
said that, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There will be no Hulk Hogan here, but he is getting mentioned.
Yeah.
Ricky Steamboat does blow the fire. He breathes fire. You know what I noticed? This is why WWF was so much better than WCW. He does the same gimmick, right? Breathing the fire, but this is the difference. WWF, they're smart enough to know turn down all the fucking house lights. They don't do that
Well,
here. They just let them.
they don't know how to turn them back on. That's why they don't do that in WCW. Like, how are we gonna turn them back on? We turn them off.
That's so stupid, but I believe you, right?
Yeah.
But that's the difference. That's the difference. You know what?
There's always little things, but Leo, hey, listen, this was still like overall a better show than WrestleMania 10. So
yeah. So Flair comes out with fireworks, and Bobby Heenan, as Flair's walking out, compares him to all the sports greats at this point. Very interesting. Buffer says, "Let's get ready to rumble." And as he's saying that, I noticed that he also has a shitty left earring. And I remember that back in the 90s, this was a fucking style that everyone did. All the men wore a shitty fucking left earring. Do you remember
yeah,
this?
it was stupid. Yeah, I remember.
So stupid. It looks so terrible. You see all these fucking like middle-aged men with fucking earrings. Ugh, it's embarrassing. Match
Yeah, they
number
should get
8.
tattoos like real men.
Yeah, exactly. No, you know why? Because they're cowards. They can't do that.
No,
They
they can't.
They're scared of that. Yeah. We're gonna go to match number 8, WCW World Title match: Ricky Steamboat versus the champion Ric Flair. And they show Beth Flair, Ric Flair's wife, sitting ringside. Good methodical feeling out process in the beginning, and Bobby Heenan talks about how, hey, when I used to wrestle in the AWA and Ricky Steamboat first came in to train, Vern Gagne took a look at this guy and he said, you know what, this guy's gonna be a champion in a few years. And you know what? He was. And right when he ends that story, Ricky Steamboat slaps the shit out of Ric Flair down to one knee. It's a hard slap. The feeling out process is over. Ricky Steamboat, he starts putting on the attack, hits a pair of flying head scissors, hits a pair of drop kicks that sends Flair to the outside. Ricky Steamboat is outworking Ric Flair, and Flair knows this. As he's taking a breather outside, he has to collect himself, and he struts his way up back into the ring, and he starts with the hair pulling. He knows he has to start working a little dirty to get the advantage. However, Ricky Steamboat is still one step ahead of Flair, and he keeps taking the advantage until Ricky misses a drop kick. And as he lands on the mat, he bumps his head, and now it's Flair's turn to take over. Flair works on him for a while, and then they both go over the top rope to the floor. And then Ricky goes for a splash, but he hits the rail instead. However, this doesn't faze him too much, and he's able to bounce back and hits a superplex, and then a flying chop, and he starts pounding on Ric Flair, and Flair has taken so much of a beating, he finally takes a Flair flop to the cheer of the audience. This is a Flair flop done well because he only did one in this entire match. If you watch other matches where he takes like 2, 3, it's annoying. But when he takes one after taking multiple shots to the head, it makes sense and it's great. Ricky Steamboat puts. I'm sorry. Like you start with that. Yeah, that's a great spot.
Yeah.
Ricky puts on the figure 4 on Ric Flair in the middle of the ring, but Ric Flair is able to get out of it by eye poking him. And Tony Schiavone says, hey, the master of the figure 4 would know one of the best ways to get out of the figure 4. Ricky Steamboat hits his crossbody, but only gets a 2 count. And then Ricky goes for a splash again, but he misses. And then now it's Flair's turn to try to put on the figure 4 as Ricky tries to block it. But Flair finally gets it in. However, Ricky is able to get to the ropes. They run the ropes. And unfortunately, when they run the ropes, they actually accidentally send the ref outside. And the ref cannot get to the ring to make 3 count on the pinfall by Ricky. But Ricky does get the double chicken wing submission on Ric Flair, which the commentators point out, this is how Steamboat won previously against Flair. And while Ricky has Flair on the double chicken wing, He bridges back to make it a pinfall, and they get the 3 count. But then another referee runs down before the bell rings, and the 2 referees talk with Big Nick Bockwinkel, about how both men's shoulders were down, and Nick Bockwinkel signals to the referee to say, "Hey, let Ric Flair wins." This is some BS. This is a bullshit finish to this match. Ricky Steamboat looks pissed off. The fans are booing. Tony Schiavone starts talking to Nick, and he goes, "Can you explain what happened?" And Nick Bockwinkel says, "Tradition says that when it's a draw, the champion still gets the belt. While this isn't a draw, both men's shoulders were down. So in this decision, I give it to Ric Flair, but I'm going to have to talk to the board about this." And they're like, "You got to talk to the board? Why? You don't seem confident." He goes, well, it's a decision I made now, but I got to talk to the board." And Tony Schiavone says, "We're going to have to explain this further on WCW Saturday night." What did you think about this match? What did you think about the finish?
But the finish was stupid. The finish ruins the match. I really enjoyed the match. Here's the problem. This is like setting up. And when they did this, I always thought that seeing it, this is like setting up a big feud for these 2 guys throughout the summer, right? This is setting up. But then Hogan shows up, and they kind of have to forget about all this. And it just kind of makes Steamboat look like an idiot. It was a weird direction to go. Hogan's coming in. That Ric Flair has to job to Hogan, and it was just really weird. I would have just had Ric Flair pin him cleanly. I don't know. Maybe Ric Flair thought, again, Ricky Steamboat's another guy who gets injured and retires in a few months. Maybe Ric Flair thought, I can go back to Ricky Steamboat later on in the year, and while Hogan's stinking up the main event where Earthquake and Brutus, me and Steamboat could be having killer matches for like the U.S. title or something. I don't know. But this feels like the start of something, and it's not. It's just this one little. It's like a shitty sequel. You know what it is? It's like how Beverly Hills Cop 4 is going to be. Like you have like these classic movies where Eddie Murphy's in his prime, and now it's like this too little, too late final chapter. And that's what this felt like, more than this great, like, finally these guys are back in the ring together. So.
Yeah, it was a. It wasn't
like
even their.
Listen, the wrestling was still great, still fun to see these guys in the ring, but the finish, to me, it's like there's a lot of weird decisions. Knowing that Hogan's coming in, they're making a lot of weird decisions in terms of booking. I'm enjoying the show, but like, you're not really building to Hogan well.
And I would say as well, this wasn't even their best match, right?
No, definitely is.
Yeah. And it wasn't their best match, even not even counting the finish. But then when you add
even if they had a clean finish, it wouldn't have held up. No.
Yeah, and when you add that shitty finish, it just was like, it was a weird way to end an otherwise good pay-per-view. But overall, Spring Stampede is worth watching, in my opinion.
I think it's really good. If you want, if you're one of those people that thinks Hogan sports entertained WCW up, this is a really good time capsule. Ric Flair was the booker at the time. Eric Bischoff's this is a very good time capsule of like pure vintage WCW, And you could, I don't think Hogan ruined it, but if you're one of the people that think Hogan ruined it, this is the show for you, because it's the crowd is hot. And again, to me, it feels a lot like an AEW show. So, All right. So that's this episode. Next week, we're doing Slamboree 94. It's Sting versus Vader. In 2 weeks, King of the Ring 94. It's Roddy Piper versus Jerry Lawler. In 3 weeks, Bash at the Beach 94. Hulk Hogan. He's back versus Ric Flair. And then in 4 weeks, SummerSlam 94. Undertaker versus Undertaker. What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Bash the Beach. I'm actually curious to see Hogan in WCW. Absolutely.
Yeah, now that we watch all the WCW shows, it's going to be interesting to see Hogan in there now. Now that we have like a taste of WCW. Guys, that's the podcast. Follow us, Goots' Wrestling Pod. Follow Andrew on Instagram, Andrew Sonali. Follow me on TikTok, Ray Goots Comedy. And we'll see you next time for Slamboree 94. Thanks, Andrew Libro.
Bye.